Hi everybody, this is Brandy Kwong, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Assessment, Instruction, and Grants, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about the Massachusetts math curriculum frameworks, the Eureka Math program resources we're using, and then resources that are available to parents and teachers online in a couple of different places. There's a lot available to us, and I just want to make sure that parents are aware of how and why we got to this point, why we're using Eureka Math, and then all the resources that parents have at their fingertips. So first, I just wanted to spend a few moments just talking about the frameworks. So Massachusetts has a set of mathematics frameworks that we are expected to follow as a public school, and those frameworks were first revised in 2011, which is when we incorporated the Common Core in our frameworks. And then it was recently revised in 2017. And this here is a live link to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's website. And this is the framework, so you can have the ELA, and here's the mathematic frameworks for Massachusetts. And it actually has, it's a lengthy document, 217 pages, grades pre-K through 12, but it actually gives, if you're interested, some in-depth background of each grade level, what the expectations are, how the state got to this point, who was involved in creating the Massachusetts frameworks, and the incorporation of the Common Core. It also goes over some of the mathematical practices, which I'll show you in a minute, which is a little bit of a change, a shift for us, and something you might be seeing in your student. But basically the three areas that have changed in our frameworks is that come 2011, the state and the Common Core and the country decided that we needed to go into more depth, into fewer topics, have a greater focus on those few topics in each grade level, to have kids really have a foundational understanding of the math happening at those grade levels, so that when they got to advanced levels of math in middle school and algebra and advanced math classes in high school, it wasn't about not understanding why they were doing the math they were doing. So that was a huge change. Coherence, the linking of topics. So basically, students will be, the introduction to concepts begins in a given year, and then that concept is then built upon the following year. So K through 5 is really building a foundation of number sense and the number system and cardinality and counting. So it's really building the foundation of numbers, the relationship of those numbers across those grade levels, and getting more complex with subtraction, addition, multiplication, and division, and then leading into working with fractions. 6 through 8 has another set of frameworks that allows students to apply those foundations in K through 5, all the strategies, the models, the fluency, the accuracy of the mathematics, into more abstract thinking with algebra and functions and expressions and ratios and proportions. And then the third piece that changed with these standards is the rigor. So basically, we're looking at a higher understanding, conceptual understanding of the math, why we're doing the math, just not doing math. And that's, I know for me as an adult, that is how I learned math, we just did math. We followed the teacher's lead, we learned a formula, and we just put in numbers and did math problems. We didn't really go through understanding the relationship between those numbers, why we did that. So getting to those advanced math classes became more difficult if we didn't understand, the relationship between the numbers and the expressions and functions and the like. And then basically, so the bottom line is this is a huge shift from computational math to more conceptual, from what we experience as adults. So our world was very computational, and until about 2011, that's what all children's world was for learning math. And basically now it's becoming more conceptual, really understanding why we're doing the math we're doing. So this image here actually allows you just to see the progressions. So those, we call them domains in math. So you can see the progression of those domains. So everything in purple is the pre-K through 5. Those are the foundational skills. So the number sense, the operations, the numbers and operations in base 10s, learning fractions. So you'll see that by the end of 5th grade, kids should have a foundational understanding of how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide with accuracy and fluency. The domains in orange, now you're getting into the middle school concepts: ratios, proportions, expressions, equations, functions. So these are the more abstract concepts that without these foundational skills, kids are going to really have difficulty here multiplying and dividing fractions, understanding the relationship and place values between decimals and fractions. And then, of course, that's going to lead to more difficulty getting into functions and higher math. And then the ones, And then the ones down here, you see geometry and measurement and data. Geometry spans every grade level. So there's a unit for geometry that is expected, or standards in every grade level that teachers will cover as they go through the pre-K through 8. Measurement and data is K through 5, again, those foundational skills. So the coherence understanding is just as I explained before. So if there's a standard that's introduced in one grade level, there's another standard, and you can see here the way that those are coded are similar, so teachers understand what that means. But it builds on the next grade level to add to that understanding. So if a child is able to multiply single digits, they should be able to multiply double digits. If they can add fractions, they should be able to subtract fractions. So it's very progressive. And then the third one is about the rigor, which I also already said that this is really about diving into the conceptual understanding, not just 2 times 2 is 4. It's 2 groups of 2, which is 4. So it's looking at the math problem a little bit differently. I know that was a simple example, but the conceptual understanding of the relationship between the numbers is really, really important, and the application. So the 2011 and the revised 2017 math frameworks really focus too on the application and math practices. How do we use math in our real world? How do we know when to apply certain math operations? So basically this is that shift I was just saying about computational to more conceptual. So within the Massachusetts frameworks, there are 8 standards for mathematical practice, and they're listed here. So you can see, and these never existed before in our standards, so you can actually see that there's a huge focus on problem solving, constructing arguments, and this modeling right here, number 4, this one is a big one. So what different models can we use? And for example, many of you are probably seeing things like number bonds and tape diagrams and number lines. Those are different models that kids can use to solve problems. So if we give them the tools in K through 5 to use those different models to solve problems, some of them are going to be more comfortable with number lines, some are going to be really comfortable with tape diagrams, but it gives them the strategies they need to use different tools when they get to that higher learning of math, that higher abstract math in middle school and high school. And that's our focus. So you'll see a lot of that, the modeling with math, throughout K through 12 at this point. And then, of course, there's precision and looking for making sense of those structured, those word problems, etc. The bottom line is, this is something I've already said, is that the rigor requires students to have a deeper understanding of the concepts. It's not just about that plug and chug, which we used to call it, to find a right answer. So we don't want kids to go home with 2 pages worth of multiplication problems and do 50 problems. If they can do 10, they can probably do 50. But it's not, math isn't just about being able to memorize those math problems and get the right answer. It's about understanding what those relationships are between the numbers. How do I know what math operation I need to do to solve this word problem? And actually explaining and talking about it. There's lots of talking in math class now. Kids are talking to each other about their thoughts and ideas about how to solve problems, and they're talking a lot with the teachers. So the question becomes, what does this mean for me and my child? So over the past few years, you've probably seen these changes. So if you're in early elementary, this may be a little new for you, which is why we're doing this. If you're in upper elementary, you might have remembered this but didn't see huge changes, in kindergarten, 1st grade, but now you're starting to see them. Once you get into middle school, you're probably not seeing all these changes because they're doing the advanced or the abstract math right now. But these are all things you've probably seen over the past, I'd say, 4 or 5 years, that students still need to compute with fluency. So we want students to know their math facts. So I know that there are teachers who send home those math fact sheets. Those are things that are really good for students to do at home. Practice those, their times tables, adding and subtracting really, in a timed setting. And we want kids to be good at that because we want them to be able to, be confident with their foundational skills as they go into middle school. They still will be getting an answer. This isn't, 2 times 2 is always going to be 4. The frameworks isn't about not getting an answer, but it's why am I going through this process to get this answer, and why might I use a different operation? How can students solve the same problem 2 different ways but get the same answer? Those are the conversations that are happening in class right now. They'll be applying math computational skills to solve their problems, so they have to know which skill that they need to use to solve these problems. They'll need to be able to think critically. They've been doing that. Again, a lot of talking in the math classrooms now about why one student solved it one way and another student solved it another way, but they ended up getting the same answer. There's a lot of ways to think critically and solve problems. And so again, that's happening a lot in classrooms. And the students may bring home homework. They're being asked to bring home some things that you've never seen before, and it's okay. Parents can support math learning at home, and if in a minute or two I'm going to give you some suggestions and resources to help you do that. But it's okay that you've never seen it before, or you're not quite sure what's being asked of the student. Again, it's very different than what we experienced as students when we were in school, and so sometimes it can be very frustrating. But basically, teachers and students are going to be using those Eureka Math materials to support the Massachusetts math frameworks. And just another note is that all college and career readiness assessments are changing to align to these standards. So you have the SAT, PSAT, ACT, MCAS, PARCC in some of the different states. All of these assessments are actually going to align to content standards, and it's the math standards and the ELA standards that they're going to be assessing. So we're really trying to prepare the students for these next steps of what the higher education also is looking for. So the big question on the table is why Eureka Math is the program that we chose to support our implementation of the mathematics frameworks. And basically, so here's sort of a bulletin list of the process, but we had many teachers in our district who were using, it was called Engage New York Lessons. The state of New York in 2011, when the Common Core came out, decided to put teachers, administrators, and a nonprofit organization got together to actually design lessons that align to the curriculum K-12 in math and ELA. So they spent an enormous amount of money and resources to do this statewide. These lessons were open educational resources, so they were available to anyone. And so we had everybody heard about it. Georgia is actually another state that was going through the same thing, and so there are lessons in the state of Georgia as well. And these lessons, so our teachers, we had many teachers, teachers represented from every one of the grammar schools using Engage New York lessons in 2013 and 14. And what we found is that they were met with really great success. The day-to-day student performance in class was higher and more consistent. Student achievement on internal and state assessments were higher. Student growth in math was above average for classroom teachers who use the materials with integrity. And so we put curriculum teams together, K through 8, in the 2014 school year to realign our math curriculum maps to make sure that we had included everything from the 2011 frameworks. And everything that we had prior to pre-2011 was outdated, and so we obviously needed to look at something new. The last materials we had for math was purchased in 2005. And so as we were going through this process, the grade level teams were all linking Engage New York lessons to our curriculum maps. And our team made the decision that because we were solely using Engage New York lessons with our curriculum map, that we would adopt the Eureka Math as our as our program to support the implementation of the math frameworks in Massachusetts. The one thing that we liked about it, Eureka Math, is an open educational resource, so everybody has access to everything for free, including parents, which I will show you in a moment. And it's basically it's the top rated math program nationally, as reviewed through EdReports, which I have a live link here. If you're interested, you can go and look through that report. But EdReports actually goes through annually and analyzes publishers for alignment with curriculum, usability. There are different criteria that they rate different programs on, and it is the highest nationally rated program in the country right now. So we liked that idea. And it's not only being adopted by districts in Massachusetts, but it's across the country. I listed some that I know of, and I've worked with some of the people in these districts. There are many more than this in Massachusetts and across the country. There are some whole states that have adopted Eureka Math as their resource to implement the Common Core and their state frameworks. Louisiana is one of them. Of course, New York. There are some on the West Coast. There are a couple in Central United States that are also using Eureka Math as their state math program to support implementation of the frameworks. So I actually wanted to show you, this is the important part. So I want to show you where the resources were. So if you go to the Methuen Public Schools webpage, you select departments from the top menu, and you select curriculum, instruction, and assessment. There's actually a dedicated page to Eureka Math. This page was created 3 years ago when we adopted it to give parents and teachers a quick access to all the resources that they need. Everything on this page is a live link, so I'll go there in a minute. This is one avenue to go to get to the resources, but the second avenue is actually going directly to the greatminds.net website. So I'm just going to click on this live link. And basically, this is the Great Minds website. And if you click on math, you can see here on this bar, there's an overview, there's selection for parents. You can create an account here, and everything on here is for free. So you can create an account, you can download everything that's in your child's workbook, everything's in PDF. You can also get these parent tip sheets that will actually tell you for each module what you should expect in the unit. So there are, I'm going to go, let's see, for grade 3. I'll add that to my cart and just show you here in order. Okay, so here's the tip sheet. I apologize for that delay. So the modules, please, so there's one for every module. So let's go to multiplication and division, multiples of 10, topic A. So here is what a parent tip sheet would look like. These are very helpful. It gives you sample problems. It shows you the vocabulary kids will be focused on, how you can help at home. It gives you some suggestions for helping at home as well. Again, I know some of the teachers do give this out, but it's just another resource that you have available to show you what the kids are doing and what's expected. So this would be the tip sheet for the first 3 lessons. So again, those are all available to you on this Great Minds website. And then the second way, as I explained, is to go to the Methuen Public Schools website and click on, which is here. You click on the curriculum, instruction, and assessment website, and then Eureka Math is right here. There's a whole page dedicated to it. So I have all kinds of resources on this page, including this huge chart down here, parent support links. There are roadmaps. These are also pretty great. They kind of give you an overview of the types of things that students should be able to do by the end of the school year, equal to what kinds of language, again, good vocabulary here that you can use with your students, and where this is something that is particularly good to have. So of grade 4, what is it building on from grade 3, and where is it going in grade 5, which is a nice perspective to have. So these are great tools as well. And then homework helpers is another great tool. Again, I know some teachers pass these out with every homework, some don't, but they're all here for you. Anything that's available for free is here online. It's a homework helper for certain lessons. So this is Module 2, Grade 3, Lessons 1 through 21. The lessons are noted up here in the top right-hand corner. But it gives you these little blurbs here that kind of give you hints so that you can maybe help your student if they're getting stuck on a problem. You can read this with them and it can help them solve the problem or remind them of something they did in class. So these are really helpful as well. So hopefully you'll take advantage of those. And then, so here's this is what we just went over, some of the homework helpers, module tips for parents, the curriculum page, which I, encourage you to go to. But here's just a little chart too, so you understand the fluency part. This isn't everything they're gonna learn, but what's expected by the end of each of the grade levels, so you can see how the addition, subtraction, multiplication, division all builds on itself pretty much through the end of grade 5. And then by the time kids get to grade 6, they have to now be able to do that fluency to actually solve problems. They have to know the decimals, the ratios, the proportions. They have to solve using expressions and equations. So it's really important to build those foundations. Some additional supports I would suggest is a lot of teachers also use IXL Math and Extra Math. These two websites at home, if you're looking for some encouragement with the students to actually have them just practice their math fluency, these two sites are wonderful. It's just math fact fluency building, and so some of these things are timed and some aren't, but you can go to those. They're both offered. Students can jump on those for free at any point in time, and you can pick what the students do. Khan Academy is an excellent website. It actually is one of the better websites out there academically for math and science. It's free, and it actually has videos of each concept and what Khan Academy has done at this point. They're out of California, but because Eureka Math is a nationally known resource to implement the Common Core and state frameworks, Khan Academy has aligned many of their lessons with Eureka Math lessons, so they happen in progression order, and they have a whole section for that, 3 through 8, so you can actually sign your student up. The teachers have this resource as well, and they were recently made aware that they aligned to Eureka Math modules and lessons, so you may be seeing your student using this at school too. It just helps to reinforce those. It looks at the problems in a different way. There are questions, comprehension questions the kids have to answer also in this program, so it's a wonderful, wonderful resource. I would recommend that highly. And then, so lastly, basically this is just a summary of what we're talking about. We might feel that this looks like new math, or what is this crazy math that my kid's doing? It's not new math, it's just moving from doing math and just having it be computational to actually having students understand the numbers and the math, what it represents, using pictures, symbols, models to represent the numbers K through 5. And again, you'll see that after grade 5, the content becomes more advanced and kids are actually applying the skills that they've learned in K through 5 as they move up 6 through 12. So the frameworks is focused on 3 things, fewer topics and more depth, coherence, and the increased rigor. Students will still need to use fluency, and they still have to have that at every grade level to be successful. That has not gone by the wayside. It is still a very important part of learning math, is to be able to, actually compute math, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division with fluency and accuracy. And parents can support students at home with that, which we showed you some examples of the resources for Eureka Math and some online resources as well with fluency. Also very important and really good time spent at home. This is a hard one for some of us, including me. My daughter is now in 8th grade in the Methuen public schools, and so I have a very strong vested interest in what happens in the school district. And sometimes it gets very difficult for us not to do our child's homework when they get frustrated. But I'm encouraging you all to support students to, leave problems blank. If it's something that you haven't seen and the child doesn't know how to solve it, we're doing your child a disservice if the teacher doesn't know that the child doesn't know how to do that the following day. That's how the teachers are going to inform what they do each day. If children come back and the homework is filled in, they're going to assume that the students know how to do it, until a day or two goes by and they realize the student really doesn't know how to do it. So I encourage you, just if students get frustrated, if you get frustrated at home, leave that blank, write a note on that homework sheet that the student got frustrated, didn't know how to explain it, and let it go, and you can have the students practice some fluency or walk away for the day. But don't, get don't let students get over frustrated with their homework. It's just really important that they try it. If they persevere and they can't figure it out, and it's not something that you can help explain to them because it's not the way that you understand it, or it looks a little different, again, just leave it blank and write that note to to the teacher. And again, you can access all of the Eureka Math materials through the greatminds.net website, which you have access to through this presentation, or through the Methuen Public Schools curriculum page. So I hope that helps parents. We realize that parent meetings aren't super successful anymore. Parents and students are very busy, so having these face-to-face meetings can be difficult with time. So I'm hoping that by recording this, more parents are able to view this, at least hear and look and see and know where the resources are. And I would end with encouraging all of you, if you have any questions or concerns about anything that's happening in the math classrooms or programs, certainly talk to your child's teacher, your building associate principals and principals, and my contact information is here. I always welcome conversations with parents. I'm in the buildings a lot. I try to go to the academic nights and the math family nights that the teachers are holding to be a part of those conversations, and welcome any conversation that parents might have, or questions or concerns. So please feel free to contact me. But I do hope this was helpful, and I hope you are able to access all of the resources that you need to help your students. Thank you, and have a great day or night.